Hi folks, just wanted to talk to you about my piece of sculpture, Tragically Gifted. The narrative running through this is one of desperation, and desperation in a creative situation. The idea of this concept came to me when I was under the most intense pressure. I was working for a client on a project, on a commission, and he expected me to work to a deadline. Unfortunately, with creativity, that simply doesn't work. It cannot be rushed, and the client just couldn't understand why it was taking so long to actually breathe life into the work. And this is a common problem, I think, faced by all creatives and artists across the board. I think we all feel immense pressure in a working situation. But this is a celebration of how it's possible to actually come to terms with that pressure and in that desperation actually come out at the other end with something worthwhile. And sometimes I think the pressure can actually help. For me, it turns into indignation sometimes because it becomes so intense. I actually use that pressure almost like a fire in my belly, and it helps me to dig even deeper. If you look at the far side of the sculpture, we have a supporting post. That's made from a dead holly tree. And I chose dead holly because I wanted something with splits and gnarliness and character, and I thought that would actually represent pressure, a pressure situation and the torment and torture in people's lives. The post then supports the hands working cloth. This area, this is the most important part of the piece of work, and this is the area of dead calm, almost, if you like, the eye of the storm. And when I work, I go into what I call the zone, and it's this beautiful meditative state, this sublime area of complete calm, and it doesn't matter for me how much shit's going around on the periphery of my life. It makes no difference because I'm totally absorbed and totally in control in the zone. I think this is an area that all creative people can go into. Picasso said that when he entered his studio, he would leave his physical self at the door, pretty much like a Muslim leaves their shoes at the door of the mosque. And he would enter the studio with his spiritual self rather than his physical body. And that's why he could be so creative and so spontaneous. And I think all creative people and all artists can actually enter that zone, that beautiful, sublime area. The snake is the nemesis. And I think we all have a nemesis in life. And in this case, I've used the snake in a sinister form to represent my client ready to pounce if I don't complete on time. It's meant tongue-in-cheek, it's not meant with any great seriousness at all, but I just think everybody has a nemesis, and in this case, I've used a snake to represent that. Finally, when I'd almost completed the project, Alexander McQueen, the great fashion designer, died, and he had actually expressed an interest in showing my work in the future. And I thought it was a real tragedy, and I thought because of the general nature of the piece of work, the cloth, it would be wonderful to carve a pair of scissors and to complete the narrative, and I dedicated it to him. I'm really proud of the fine detailing on this piece of work, in particular the hands. So what I'd like to do is go on a close-up tour and have a look at some of the finer points. So let's move in and check out some of this detail. Okay, at the base there we have a piece of sycamore. The drapery is carved out of a block of sycamore. I use sycamore because it's relatively grainless, and so the readability of the subject is very good. It's never going to hold detail like marble, but in terms of, as a wood, it's the best, it really is. Very close grained and nice to carve too. That's supporting a piece of walnut, and everyone thinks that's a cross-section through the trunk of a tree. It's not. It's actually a slice through a callus on the side of the tree, which has great integrity. If it would just cut through the trunk of a tree, it would fall apart. So it's a callus of a tree, so you can get an idea of the size of the walnut tree, which is a particular rare and very valuable wood. And I like the idea of combining that with a more rustic and very raw wood. And we have a piece of dead holly to the left. Just zoom in a bit and have a look at some of the features. Like I said, I chose that because it's full of splits and natural features, and I think that, to me, actually shows pressure. And I love the idea of combining that with this rough, rustic, raw wood with the sublime walnut. I really do like that incongruity. And as we get to the top, zoom in a bit closer. So the hands are supported by the post. Hands are immensely difficult to carve. Very, very difficult. I love doing them though. Perhaps I like torture, or perhaps I'm a masochist. I love doing them because they're so expressive. The great thing about hands is that they actually show emotion in an anonymous way. Unlike the face is common to the individual, so I don't think it's quite as easy to read your own emotional state into a face, whereas with hands, because they're so anonymous, I think everybody can read something into them of their own lives. I've studied anatomy for years and spent many years in life rooms drawing the human form, and I think it's necessary to understand what's going on under the skin before you can actually attempt something like this, because hands really are very, very difficult, but ultimately rewarding. The cloth's really quite easy to carve and quite easy to create an effect. It's just very easy to create flowing shapes, whereas hands, it's a much tighter discipline. It really is much, much harder. And there you have it. Tragically Gifted. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.